All right, thanks for tuning in once again. It's Ishmael Sistrunk from the St. Louis American and STLamerican.com, and we are back with our first In the Clench boxing hangout in quite a while. With me, I got three very knowledgeable boxing guys. We got Mr. Factoid Allen here with us. Thanks for joining us. My man Mike Dixon, usual guest here. Mike. And then we got the return of Doug James. Doug has joined us once, and he's definitely going to have a lot of good insight. So without much ado, let's hop right in. We're talking about Manny Pacquiao, and I'm going to be straightforward with you guys. Part of the reason that we stopped doing the regular In the Clench hangouts last year is because boxing, basically, you know, we got a lot of nonsense fights last year. Everybody, of course, has wanted to see Mayweather Pacquiao for the last 4 or 5 years, but of course, we know there was a lot of issues going on with Heyman and, you know, him making moves. So last year, boxing just got boring. I really didn't want to talk about the mismatches that they had going. This year has been the exact opposite. We finally been getting a lot of great fights. Of course, Mayweather Pacquiao was the biggest fish, but we've been seeing PBC take its own form. We've been starting to see more competitive fights this year in 2015, and it's going to culminate this coming Saturday with Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Manny Pacquiao. Factoid, this fight has been a long, long time in the making. Why do you think it was made now? And we know they're going to make a lot more money than they would have, but is this going to be a better fight now than it would have been, say, 5 years ago?
Wow, man, that's a great question, and it's good to be back on In the Clench. You know, I don't know if it's necessarily going to be a better fight than it would have been 5 years ago, but when you really look at it, both guys are certainly going to make far more money than they would have 5 years ago, and Floyd Mayweather seems to be all about the money regardless how it plays out. So he strategically seemed like maybe did, you know, made a choice. He decided, I'm going to take myself over to Showtime, I'm going to work this deal. And he leveraged himself and put himself in a position now on that 5-fight contract or whatever it was, 5 or 6 fight deal, where now he could fight, you know, Manny Pacquiao and be able to get more money than anybody's ever seen for a boxing match. I mean, the numbers are ridiculous. So I don't know that Floyd felt pressured by the media. I don't think Floyd felt pressured by the fans. I think Floyd probably kind of just bided his time a little bit and said, you know, when it's time, I'm going to make that money. I don't think Pacquiao really had the leverage to be able to make the fight. Especially after getting knocked out, even though he had some good performances against Algeria and Brandon Rios or whatever after the fact, but he didn't have the ability to call any shots here. So I think it was just time for the fight to happen. Mayweather had put himself in a position where the fight could happen, and who knows what they said in that Miami Heat game when they met, you know, after the fact in the hotel room, if that really, you know, spurned on where we are today, which I think all fight fans are happy that finally Saturday is going down. We're going to get Mayweather and Pacquiao in the ring.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you just a little bit when you say that Mayweather wasn't pressured into the fight. I think pressure has something to do with it. I mean, when we look at Mayweather, obviously he's the highest bankroll and highest paid fighter, highest paid athlete really per year. But as his fights have been going on, people have been getting much more restless watching him with the opponents. Now, the first Maidana fight was a good fight. A lot of people really didn't want to see that fight. The rematch, you know, people groaned and moaned and groaned. So I think his numbers started to go down after the Canelo fight. And so I think Showtime pressured him, number one, because they said, hey, we can't have you going against Amir Khan and really sell it and pay you what you're making. If they could pay Floyd Mayweather $20 million to fight in Amir Khan or Miguel Cotto a second time or something like that, I think it would have worked out for them economically. But for the money that he's getting paid in that contract, I think Showtime put some pressure on him and said, hey, man, we got to get some return on our value. We've been losing a little bit of money on some of these fights. The Canelo, again, they made a lot of money on that, but we really haven't been breaking even with this big contract we gave you. So you're going to have to give us something. And then, of course, you know, the fans are always talking about legacy, and I think that's something that's important to him. Mayweather says he just said he was better than Muhammad Ali. He says he's the greatest of all time. Could he really convince people of that without beating Manny Pacquiao? I don't think he could. Mike, what do you think about that?
As far as the pressure,
Yeah, the pressure or why the fight is happening.
I probably got to go ahead and jump on the bus with you. I think he was running out of options, and I think although he's paid extremely well, I think he's not a dumb guy. So I think he knew that his future fights were getting less and less marketable unless he finally broke down and gave the people what they wanted. So he put it off. He had some good mega fight with Canelo, and then a few other solid fights, I'll say, with Maidana and Guerrero. So I think the fifth fight of a six-fight contract. I just think the sand was at the bottom of the dial, and I think he finally decided to break down and go ahead and give them what they want. And if it's a good competitive fight for that last fight on that contract, he has the opportunity to maybe even do a rematch and really cash out before he walks out the door. So yeah, I definitely think pressure has something to do with it.
And Doug, what do you think about the fact that these guys are now, let's see, what's Mayweather? Is he 38?
38.
38. Pacquiao's what, 37, 36?
Right.
Do you think that's going to affect the fight? Now that these guys are a little bit older, have each lost a step in some way, shape, or form. Do you think that'll affect the quality of the fight?
Well, I don't know if it's going to affect the quality of the fight. I do think, the pace is not going to be as busy as we used to with Pacquiao. But, for me, it's just like the years of the, talking about the Olympic-style drug testing and, Mayweather's running, Pacquiao's doing this. I mean, I think there's just a lot of wasted time. And I can see, watching some of Floyd's fight, I can see some of the speed, diminish. I watched the fight against Gotti. I watched the fight against Hatton. I watched some of those old fights, and it just seems like Floyd's just losing a little speed, but he's still one of the smartest fighters out there. And when you watch him, he kind of dismantles his opponents. He goes head body, defense. So I think, to make a long story short, I just think that the fight is still going to be a decent pace. I think everybody's interested, but I just think it loses a little luster. But there's so many people that want to see Mayweather lose, and that's one of the things that I find kind of humorous when I read some of the things on Facebook. People are saying so many people are dying to see Floyd get knocked out. They think he's going to get knocked out, but I don't think so.
Yeah, and I mean that's interesting, man. I was actually watching the 30 for 30 on what was it called? I Hate Christian Laettner, or Everybody Hates Christian Laettner. And they were talking about, they actually had, Ric Flair was on there, made a little cameo, but he's talking about how you need a bad guy to sell, to really make money, to be popular like this. You need a bad guy, and Floyd has definitely embraced that role. And like it or not, I've had some issues with some things that he said or done or whatever, but like it or not, that's why he's able to make 120, maybe more million on this fight. That's why Pacquiao is able to make 80 million, maybe more on this fight. So it will be the biggest fight in history. Anybody can jump in here. Will this measure up to just the epic event that it is? They're charging $100 for the pay-per-view. Will the actual fight in the ring live up to what everybody's been waiting 5-6 years for? Everybody's been arguing about, going back and forth. Is it going to be worth it at the end?
Factoid, you want that?
Yeah, I take it, man. I don't necessarily think so. Like last week, you looked at a fight with, Lucas Matisse and Provodnikov, right? You got two guys that are pretty good at coming forward and being very active coming forward. This is a matchup where you got the counterpuncher, the fast, quick counterpuncher, and Mayweather versus a really aggressive offensive fighter in Manny Pacquiao. So I think the offense-defense side, where it's not really two offensive fighters who are coming head-on like bulls, I think in that regard, I don't know if it's going to be as great, as it possibly could be, but I think it could still be a very, very good fight after probably, the first probably 6-7 rounds should be competitive.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, well, what Mayweather fight has lived up to the hype? I mean, do they ever? I mean, it's with him. You're getting this. You're looking at an all-time great, and he usually either his defense totally shuts down the other person's offense, or his offense is overwhelming. When he decides to be aggressive, his opponent. So I mean, I think for a long time we've looked for style matchups that can counter what he does, but I think it's been a long time since we've seen that. Probably all of us I think would probably agree that we have to go back and really think about the last time we saw Floyd in the actual. Well, probably the Cotto fight was as close as you can get.
Good fight, yeah.
That was his most entertaining fight, but for the most part, Floyd's fights don't really sell from an exciting standpoint. I mean, he's not Corrales, he's not Gotti, he's not a young Mike Tyson. That's never been his hustle. I think skill has always been his selling point, and then, like Ishmael said, the personality. Either you got a portion of the population that, for whatever reason, is just enamored with his personality, his larger-than-life, braggadocious type style, and then you got a portion of the population that, kind of like you said about Ric Flair, wants to get his, see him get his top pop. So I think part of that, all that sells tickets, and I think he has a legitimate, like Pacquiao comes off real humble, so he's going to be real easy to root for. So I think you kind of do have the Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair or Hulk Hogan versus Randy Savage, heel versus babyface type vibe going.
Right, and man, here's one thing I was thinking about earlier today. As we were just planning to do the hangout, I was trying to think of what is Mayweather's signature performance. When you think about, because he said he's the greatest of all time, so I'm thinking about, Ali and Hagler or Sugar Ray Leonard, or not necessarily that those guys are the greatest of all time, but those are all greats, and each of those guys have signature performances. For Mayweather, for me, I think it goes all the way back to maybe Corrales.
Chico Corrales.
I was just thinking that.
Where he knocked him down, like 5 times over that match. But how long ago was that? That was closer to the beginning of his career than the end. So I think Mayweather really needs to have a signature performance in this bout. Even if he wins in a typical Mayweather style, just using defense, using movement, I still don't think people are going to buy he's the greatest of all time. Well, some people will, the hardcore people will, but I think he needs that definitive performance, because I don't know if you can have that far, back and really be in that GOAT conversation. So we'll see. I mean, this obviously is the opponent for that. If you're going to have a signature performance, this is the time to do it. But it'll be interesting to see how Mayweather plays it. Does he want to put on a show, put that distinctive mark on his career, like, hey, this is it, I'm the best? Or is he like, hey, I'm just trying to get the win, hit and not be hit? That's the rule I live by. If he goes that route, it's going to be boring. Or will he stand in trade and try to get Pacquiao out of there, or at least win definitively?
You guys don't think Canelo and the Ricky Hatton fight were signature performances?
Well, the Canelo fight, for me, it was one of those where he made it look so easy. It was a good fight, but he didn't really wow me in that fight. Ricky Hatton, it was a signature performance, but most people didn't really expect Ricky Hatton to win. Like, I thought he was a legitimate champion. He was a quality fighter, but against Mayweather, he was coming up in weight, and people really don't think that they were on the same level. So that'll be on the highlight reels. But I think at least for me, the Corrales victory was much more impressive, much more important in terms of legacy than the Hatton fight.
I think that Canelo fight, he was, they were hyping Canelo up. He was younger. I think he was 23, and I think Floyd was 36 at the time, somewhere around there. And they were saying, oh, this young guy is gonna knock Floyd out. I think Floyd had a impressive outing. But like you said, I mean, people are looking for knockdowns, they're looking for, stoppages, and it's just not happening with Floyd. And the last fight, like you say, was Corrales, is where, Corrales was a top-notch boxer at the time. I didn't even think Floyd was going to beat Corrales, to be honest. And he actually took him out. So, I mean, I think it would be between those two fights.
All right, well, we done talked a lot about the fight. I want to get into the meat and the potatoes of it here instead of drawing it out. I want to know who you guys think are going to win, or why you think they're going to win, or what type of matchup problems they're going to be. I don't care who jumps in first, but the people who are tuning in, they really want to see who's going to win this fight and why. So I want to get you guys' take.
Mike, run them down.
You know, I think I probably got to go with Mayweather. You know, I'm not as overly convinced as a lot of people. I don't think. I think it because of the style thing. I think it can be. I think it's going to decision, but I think, unlike a lot of people, I think it's going to be a close decision that probably will go in the favor of Mayweather. I can see it. We talked a little bit about that Cotto fight earlier. I can see it maybe resembling that a little bit, with maybe a little bit of the back and forth in rounds, a little bit more so than we've seen lately. And like my man said, Floyd has slowed down enough. Not that Pacquiao's looked like a world beater lately himself either. He's also slowed down, but I think that Floyd has slowed down enough to maybe make it a little bit more interesting than it would have been when they fought in their prime. You know, now I could be totally wrong. You know, Floyd is a master puzzle solver, so he could just totally perplex Pacquiao and have him looking, you know, just totally out of rut out there. You know, he's done that many times. But I think that the southpaw stance, I think the fast hands, and I think the fact that this is the first time that we've seen Floyd fight somebody that's not necessarily where they're playing A, B, and C, like Maidana, like Guerrero, like Canelo, like Cotto is. Okay, let me try to go to his body, knock his head off. This will be a guy that actually has boxing skills himself. So he'll be able to use some things and give Floyd some different looks that he hasn't seen in a while, that we haven't seen him face in a while. I'm sure his training camp is being conducted properly. I'm sure he's bringing in the right type of sparring partners. Lord knows he'll be ready. He's always ready. But I think some of the things that Pacquiao brings to the table, I think people might be selling a little bit short. Not so much that he's a better fighter than Floyd, just some of the things that he does style-wise that I think is still, even at this later stage in the game, can cause Floyd some problems. But, I mean, it's hard to go against Floyd, you know, and I can see him figuring it out and maybe getting a decision. We know he doesn't knock anybody out anymore. So probably another close decision that may resemble the Cotto fight, which I probably was safe to say was 8 rounds to 4, maybe 7 rounds to 5. I can see a scenario like that playing out.
All right, here's a question for either Doug or Factoid. Mike was talking about there may be some things matchup-wise, just style-wise, where Pacquiao may give Mayweather some problems. We know Mayweather's really famous for his shoulder roll defense. Now, against southpaws, that's not as effective, so he really does not – he's not going to do that the entire fight. Now, because that's his natural defense, even against southpaws, he's going to do that from time to time in the ring. But generally, he's going to stay away from that shoulder roll because it's going to leave him vulnerable for the straight left hands. Do you guys think that will have an impact? The fact that he's not really able to use his signature defense, was, you know, really propelled him to be this great fighter. Going away from that, how's he going to be able to cope?
I'll jump in on it, Doug. You know what? It's the perfect example we have is the fight against Zab Judah, right? Early in that fight, if you look at probably the first 5 or 6 rounds, Mayweather still tried to employ the shoulder roll defense, and he realized Zab was just as quick, for the most part, just as fast, had good enough footwork, and Zab was able to hit Floyd a few times through them first probably 5 or 6 rounds, until Mayweather put the adjustment. He made the adjustment, he put the guard up here, and he started to actually walk Zab Judah down, started to back Zab up, and from that point on in the fight, it was a wrap. Pacquiao's a much smaller man than Floyd Mayweather, much smaller man, I believe, than Zab Judah, too, when you really actually look at it, again, coming from where he's been in terms of weight. So I don't think Floyd's going to have much of a problem changing his style up because he always has more than one plan. He's got an A, a B, and a C ready to go. So in this fight, if Pacquiao is able to touch him, which I expect, and I think Manny's going to let his hands go enough where he's going to make Floyd uncomfortable. And if Floyd thinks that shoulder roll is going to work in that line of fire, he's mistaken, where he may, end up on his butt possibly early in the first round or two. I could see it happening. A cold guy getting knocked down by Pacquiao. Shane Mosley said it himself. I saw the 1-2 coming, and I was like, oh, okay. Now, next thing I know, I'm on my butt, and I'm dizzy when I'm trying to get up. So Floyd could go through the same type of thing, but I think once he changes it up, if he starts to walk him down with that guard high, he can probably get some things done. Even though Pacquiao would try some looping shots, I think Floyd will be smart enough to work through that.
Do you think he can walk him down, Doug?
I believe so, man. Another thing I noticed is that Pacquiao, he throws a lot of punches, man, but Marquez showed that he's them counter punches, man. Pacquiao don't know what to do with that, man. He gets caught a lot, and I think Floyd's thing is Floyd never really gets frustrated, and Pacquiao most fights he doesn't, but you've seen him a couple times get frustrated, and I think if he gets frustrated and get caught with those counter punches, man, that might cost him the fight. That's my opinion.
That's a great point, Doug. That's a great point.
Well, so do you think it will, Doug? We talking about picks. Mike gave his already. Do you think that's something enough to where Floyd's going to be able to pull out the victory?
I think so. I think so, man. Because I watch Manny a lot, man, and Manny, like I say, especially like with Marquez again, man. I was talking to a factoid earlier. When you fought this guy 4 times, and you convincingly can't beat him, and every time you fight him, this Marquez to me, man, Marquez is slow. Floyd, took him out real quick, but not real quick. But Floyd kind of, he just, took over the whole fight. But I saw the frustration in Pacquiao that last fight. Then he got caught. So I mean, I think he'll keep getting caught with those punches, man. He'll lose the fight. I'm going with Floyd all the way, unanimous decision.
All right, Doug. Factoid.
Man, I'm just excited for the fight, man. I don't even want to make a prediction, Ish, man. To be honest with you, I'm so excited about the fight. But no, seriously, man. I think it's going to be a very interesting fight. And I've been listening to Bernard Hopkins, and everybody listening to B Hop, and he talked about the first 6 rounds. And I really almost agree here where Pacquiao has a chance in those early rounds to almost trick the judges. Okay, where he's letting his hands go, the flurries are there, those punches are there. And Mayweather's only letting his hands go as he normally does a few times, clean counter shots, right? So a guy who's building up on activity, who's maybe not landing all those punches, but he's still touching Floyd, I think that may have a chance to sway some of the judges. I could see possibly Manny being able to maybe knock Floyd down, like I said. But at the end of the day, I think Floyd's going to win a tight fight. I think it's controversial, man. 7-5, maybe a majority type decision, where maybe a judge has it a draw, something like that. It's not going to go down the way people want, no matter what side you're on. If you're a Mayweather fan and he wins wide, you're like Pacquiao was a bump, and vice versa on the other side. But if it's tight, everybody's going to be like it was a robbery one way or another. And I think that's what you're going to get in this fight, man. But I like Floyd 7-5, real tight. If he's 8-4, I'm surprised the judges didn't give maybe Manny a little bit more rounds. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and that's the world we live in now. Is that any time that there's anywhere near a close fight, the other side screaming bloody murder and robbery and this is the worst judging. Sometimes a close fight is a close fight. It can go either way. Factor, you and I, we may judge a round differently based on different aspects. I may like the aggression, you may like the ring generalship or the movement, the defense, or whatever. So that's interesting. But you talked about Mayweather's punch output, and we know that Mayweather has slowed down. Because he's a defensive fighter, I won't even say necessarily slowing down, but because he's a defensive fighter, he's just trying to focus on quality shots. Mainly counter punches. He reminded me a lot. I had to go back and look at Pacquiao versus Mosley a little bit, and the reason is because Mosley and Mayweather are similar in the fact that as they got older, they became more like pot shotters. Mayweather will throw maybe 2 punches at a time. He'll throw 1 punch or 2 punches at a time. He really doesn't put together 3, 4, 5 punches anymore. He relies on his defense to get that perfect shot off. Now, for me, I don't know if Mayweather can win throwing only 3, 4, maybe even 500 punches. You go back, you look at Mayweather Maidana, the first fight, he threw 426 punches. Now, that fight was closer than a lot of his fights, even though he won because Maidana looked busier than, he was actually landing. He wasn't necessarily accurate, but he was busy. He was putting a lot of pressure on. So in that fight, Mayweather threw 426. That was a fairly close fight. Mayweather clearly won, but it was a fairly close fight. The second fight, Mayweather threw 326 punches. Against Canelo, 505 punches. Robert Guerrero, 476. You have to go back all the way to that Cotto fight, Mike, where you talked about earlier, where Mayweather threw 687 punches. That was 2012. I think for Mayweather to win this fight, he's going to have to throw around. He's going to have to throw more than 650 punches, and I don't know if he's willing to do that. And as Factoid alluded to, if he's really going and being defensive minded and using his movement, and I think he's gonna hold a lot when Pacquiao gets on the inside. You know Pacquiao's gonna come in throwing 3, 4, 5 punches at a time. If Mayweather's throwing whatever 30, 40 punches around, even if they're accurate, I don't know if he can beat Manny Pacquiao, who's coming forward. He's he throws much straighter punches than a guy like Maidana. He throws much harder punches than a lot of guys that he's fought. So I think Pacquiao can win this on the strength of being active, landing some good hard shots. I think he'll be open to a counter punch. I think, Factor, you said Mayweather may get dropped. I think Pacquiao may get dropped with a counter punch. But I think that Pacquiao can win this fight. I'm going to say he will win this fight. I'm going to go buck against the trend. I'm going to say he will win the fight because he's going to be more aggressive, and the speed that he has, he's not as wild. You know, he leaves himself open, but Mayweather's not really knocking guys out. So unless Mayweather can land a shot like Juan Manuel Marquez, who, like Doug said, it took him 4 fights to land that shot. He watched Pacquiao in the ring for 4 whole fights, and he finally landed that perfect shot. And when you look at, won't try to be too long with it, but when you look at the guys who have given Pacquiao trouble lately, all right, Marquez, he went with him, you know, hard. Marquez throws more punches, but again, he's a good counter puncher. But he went through hell in all of those fights. Marquez was willing to walk through hell to be able to hit Pacquiao back and really discourage Pacquiao. When you look at Tim Bradley, although most of us agree that Pacquiao was robbed in that fight, but even Tim Bradley, he was standing toe-to-toe a lot of times in that fight with Pacquiao. He was trading with him. He was willing to take those hard punches to, get punched in the face a lot to give his shots back off. Or when you go back to Eric Morales, who beat Pacquiao, that was a toe-to-toe war. When you look at Manny Pacquiao versus guys that run, and he hasn't fought a whole lot. I mean, he fought Algieri, who fights like that, but he really doesn't count. But I think his activity level, his speed, and his accuracy, I think he's going to give Mayweather problems.
I couldn't argue with that, man. I mean, I personally couldn't. That's why I said the decision was hard. That's why 7-5, I could see it either way. I went with Mayweather. The fact that Pacquiao is far more aggressive offensively, you said it all, Ish. That is the real reason why you could see him stealing enough rounds from Mayweather. But we talk about Floyd being get rounds. To a point in the middle of the fight, does Pacquiao start to slow down and Floyd start to change the tempo? Because if he takes over from 7 to 9, 7 to 10, it doesn't really leave Pacquiao with a whole lot to be able to work with. And that's usually when you see like that. If Pacquiao tires, maybe that's something that Floyd is looking for as well. There was some rumors about cramping in camp. Who knows if that's real? Whatever the case may be. But he's the bigger man. I think Floyd being the bigger man here could work for him. But Pacquiao is just so offensively gifted, and he cuts the distance on guys so quick. Before you know it, he's jumped in there and he's touched you. But Mayweather being so sharp offensively himself in that counter-reactive style, he catches you, maybe he puts his lights out. You never know. You could be right.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. Pacquiao obviously leaves himself open for that. Like I said, he'll get touched on the chin going in. A lot of times, the way he got knocked out, where he does his little jump step, before he punches, he does that a lot. He mixes it up where he changes it a little bit, but he's open for counter punches. But I just don't know if Mayweather is going to sit down on his punches enough to really catch him. Because who's the last guy? We know Mayweather knocked out Diaz, but that that was kind of odd because he wasn't looking, and it was that was just a weird situation. But who's the last guy Mayweather knocked out before that? Was it Hatton? Yeah, and that's been a long time against a smaller guy, so we know it can happen. Pacquiao's been knocked out 3 times. The first
two body
were,
shots.
yeah, the first two were to the body when he was a young man. But this last one against Marquez is the first time he's just really been
flat,
knocked out cold. But like Mayweather said, you can't. That's in the back of your mind. So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Early in his career, as well those losses. There it is.
Yeah, I think we're good. Were you saying something, Factoid?
No, just trying to. Yeah, I thought maybe the connection was breaking up, but no. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, it's such an interesting fight. You know, there are so many dynamics that I think everybody is really looking forward to, and whether it's 5 years too late or not, I mean, the fact that it's going down is enough reason to be excited about it. The fact that it's $100, though, I don't know what you guys are doing, what your fight plans are, but I'm sure that's an interesting question. We talk, right, that this with that many people, with it being $100 in HD, how many people are going to have, you know, a fight party of 20 or 30 people, and does that impact the overall revenue that they anticipate, you know, with a fight like this? So I think that's kind of a unique question as well.
Yeah, but Doug, what do you think? Are you getting a fight?
I got to work that day, man. But this is a fight I must see. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like I didn't even take the price in consideration. I was just like, I want to see this fight for so many reasons. You know what I mean? I think Floyd wants to get this Pacquiao monkey off his back. I think Pacquiao, you know, really thinks he can beat Floyd. All my friends that are boxing fans, I mean, people have been talking about this at work, you know, everywhere, at church, you know, wherever you go, people are talking about it. I just think that this is must-see TV, and I was like, $100, but I was like, you know, I got to get it. I got to watch it. When I get home from work, I'm relaxed, and that's my plan. I got to watch this fight.
All right,
It's transcended the game. It's transcended the game, I think, man. It's one of those fights finally. It's a mega fight, and it's kind of transcended the game. You're talking about casual, average Joes who have no idea about anybody in boxing. They're talking about this fight. They're going to order this fight, and they're going to have big parties for this fight. So it's huge, man. It's a big one.
And here's another thing is that even though people are going to be having a lot of these big fight parties, like you said, not everybody's going to get it at home. People are going to go over to somebody's house. They're going to go to, you know, the local bar or whatever. But a lot more businesses are going to get this fight than usually do. And the amount that they get for the businesses, if you think the $100 for you to pay at home is a lot, I called to see about getting it at the American, just getting it in the office there. And I mean, they're talking like $4,000 or something like that.
Crazy.
And that's for less than 100 occupancy. So they're gonna get money. I mean, they knew when they made this agreement, when they told Floyd, we're gonna give you $120 million, they knew we're gonna recoup that. You don't just go out there on blind faith. So they're gonna be able to make that money. You look at the ticket sales alone. Now this is weird. I want to talk about this for a second. How come the ticket sales for the fight just went on sale? They agreed to this fight several months ago. The tickets just went on sale like Thursday or Friday, and there were only 500 tickets out of whatever, 16, 17,000, only 500 available to the public. Like, who does that? Boxing is the only sport where you got the biggest event possibly in the sport's history, and nobody can get tickets at all.
That's crazy, man. I mean, I think that's all that whole Vegas money thing, especially when you're dealing with Floyd. I was looking at different stars were talking about it. You got NBA players talking about it. You know, it's just such a big money thing, man. It's just amazing that you're saying there's only 500 tickets and the stadium holds. Would you say 17,000? How many?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's like 16,000 and change.
So are these bleeders or are these good seats? Well, probably not good seats.
Right. Well, I think what happened is that, you know, between the hotels and the promoters, you know, they had all the tickets. They promised them to the big spenders in Vegas or to the celebrities and athletes, and they said they're selling them. I know Bob Arum said, hey, all these tickets are going to be sold. I think, what's the drawing a blank, Ronda Rousey, I think Bob Arum said she's the only one who got a free ticket to the fight. So everybody's paying, but what they did is just they gave them to the big wigs before they opened it to the public, you know. Right. So they said, hey, this ticket's going to cost you $20,000. They like, I'm good. You know, it don't matter. You know, if you're a millionaire, if you're an athlete, an actor, whatever, you don't care. You know, for me, that $100 is a little steep for me. So I'm like, 20,000 for a ticket.
That's crazy. So answer this question for me, either one of you guys. How does, and I read something about this a while ago. How does the Philippines play into this? They were saying that somehow or another Pacquiao has some type of deal or some type of percentage with him getting money from the pay-per-view sales in the Philippines. I mean, you guys know anything about that?
I don't know the exact percentage, but yeah, I know that he's probably getting a lion's share from the Philippines.
Right.
So, and you know, I mean, the Philippines already, they shut down pretty much for any Pacquiao fight. Pacquiao could fight me, and the Philippines would be closed and out of school, so everybody could watch that fight. So for this fight, I mean, they're definitely gonna, you know, he's gonna make some money from that. But then again, the Philippines is, you know, a lot poorer country, so you know, I don't know if they can charge the same just obscene rates that they charge here in America. But either way, I mean, neither of these guys is going to be starving because, like I said, that 80 million and 120 million, those were the initial figures. Lately, I've been hearing that they're expected to exceed those amounts to where they both could make whatever up to 30 million, 40 million dollars more than that, which is just outrageous.
For our work.
Right. Yeah. Are you getting paid that much, Doug?
Right. I get $250,000 an hour.
All right. So, anything else before we close out? Anything else about this fight? About this event leading up to it? I don't even know. To be honest, I don't know who's on the undercard. All I've been paying attention to is this fight itself. But any last comments that you think, Doug? It looks like we lost Factoid. I know Mike had to jet out. But before we sign off here, that you want to say?
No, I'm just looking for a real good fight, man. I've been waiting for this fight for years. Just, you know, I just hope it's not a disappointment. That's the biggest thing I've been thinking about. I just hope it's not a disappointment, and I hope it's not any type of craziness with the judges. Those are my main two things. I want to be interested, and I don't want to see any, you know, Tim Bradley type, you know, stealing, you know, like he did with Pacquiao. That's one of the two things I've been worried about. But other than that, man, I'm just looking for a good fight. And after Floyd wins or loses, you know, there's probably gonna be a rematch. And then, you know, I don't know where either one of them gonna go from here. I mean, they really don't have to go anywhere. But I'm just saying, if Floyd does win, I mean, who is he gonna fight next? You know, I mean, I don't know what to expect. So I mean, I guess we'll see.
Right. Yeah. You can't go. Let's presume since 3 of the 4, you know, said Mayweather's gonna win. Let's assume he wins. You know, he can't really go back and fight Amir Khan or fight even Danny Garcia or one of these guys. So it'll be interesting. Will he walk away with 49 wins, or will he come back? You know, hopefully it is close enough to where they get a rematch. But for me, like I said, I think Pacquiao's going to take it. I think Pacquiao's going to shock the world. It doesn't mean Pacquiao's a better fighter overall historically, but I think his style is going to give Floyd matchups. Floyd really hasn't seen a guy who can match him or nearly match him with that hand and foot speed, but a guy who's going to pressure him and is going to throw good straight punches. You know, when he got in there with Maidana, when he got in there with Ghost Guerrero, those guys throw wide looping punches. They're really not fast, and he was able to, you know, Floyd does a lot of dodging with his hands down, you know, dodging punches. But you get a guy like Pacquiao who can throw 3 or 4 straight, fast, hard punches. He's going to get hit with some of those. So I think, for me, I feel like if Floyd Mayweather wins this fight, it's going to look like a Klitschko fight. It's going to suck. It's going to be a terrible fight. He's going to hold. He's going to move. He's not going to care about impressing the crowd at all. He's just going to say, I'm going to win by any means.
He wants that victory. Right.
And if he does it, you can't hate. I mean, a win is a win. But for me, I'm hoping that, you know, being a boxing fan and wanting to see boxing thrive and survive after Pacquiao, after Mayweather, hopefully they give us a good fight that we can talk about, you know, for years to come or whatever. So I'm going to say Pacquiao comes off with the upset. All of you guys think Mayweather's going to, do his thing and go to 49-0. It'll be interesting. So let us know, if you guys are watching, let us know who you think is going to win. We know everybody has an opinion on this fight, whether you're pro Mayweather, pro Pacquiao, whatever. It's going to be a great fight. So let us know who you think is going to win. Let us know how you're watching the fight. Are you getting it at home? Are you going to the local bar? Are you going to your cousin's house, your uncle's house? Let us know. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. But thanks again, Doug, for joining me. Doug, if this was the Royal Rumble, man, you like the last man standing.
I'm last man standing. I'm the champ. I'm the people's champ.
You knocked out two veterans, man. Factoid and Mike Dixon are both veterans. The new guy came in and took him out.
Hey, I'm coming in. I'm keeping the belt. I'm taking the belt home, baby.
All right. Well, hopefully you'll be able to come back, because after the fight next week, I want to come back and talk, about the reactions, and y'all can dog me if Mayweather wins easily, or I can dog y'all if we win. But I do want to talk about it after the fight, because everybody's still going to be talking about it. But thanks again for tuning in. Once again, I'm Ishmael Sistrunk from the St. Louis American and STLAmerican.com, here with my man Doug James, boxing aficionado, boxing fan extraordinaire. And we're looking forward to this fight, and we know you are too. But we will see you next week with our post-fight reaction. See you guys later. Peace.